As David prayed, saying, "For everything in the heavens and earth is yours, O Lord. This is your kingdom. And we adore you as being in control of everything. For riches and honor come from you alone. You are the ruler of all mankind. Your hand controls power and might, and it is at your discretion that men are made great and given strength. So now, O Lord, I pray, make these servants great. Grant to them discernment to govern rightly, integrity beyond reproach, courage to fight for a bright and greater tomorrow, and a spirit of unity to move our nation forward together. Lord, in this hour, we need you. We need more of you. So, Lord, lead us and guide us and bless us according to your will, and may your name be glorified forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. The chair has examined the journal of the last day's proceedings and announces to the House the approval thereof. And pursuant to Clause 1 of Rule 1, the journal stands approved. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Bost.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Zinke. For what purpose does the gentleman from Louisiana rise?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Clause 7 of Rule 20, I move a call of the House.
Under Clause 7B of Rule 20, the chair confers recognition for that purpose. Without objection, a call of the House is ordered. Members will record their presence by electronic device.
And here in the House, after this quorum call vote, members expected to proceed to a third ballot for the election of the Speaker of the House. Ohio Representative Jim Jordan in the running for that speakership after failing twice to secure the position. We heard from him in a briefing earlier this morning. You can find that at cspan.org if you missed it. Congressman Jordan saying he planned to go to the House floor to get the votes and win the race, and that he would be working to try to turn the 20 members who voted against him in the previous tallies. Jake Sherman from Punchbowl News writing on X that a source describes the meeting held by Congressman Jordan with those holdouts as a direct, precise meeting in which Jordan was told he will never be Speaker. This group doesn't want anything, the source said. They want Jordan to understand he will not be Speaker. And voting underway here in the House. A quorum call vote for all members to come to the floor as they continue efforts to elect a new speaker. After this, members expected to proceed to the third ballot for the election of the Speaker of the House. Ohio Representative Jim Jordan in the running for the speakership after failing twice before to secure the position. Already this morning, Indiana Republican Victoria Spartz telling CNN she'll support Mr. Jordan one more time, but after that, probably the last time. We plan on taking your calls and comments after the vote for Speaker here on C-SPAN. And this vote nearing its end here in the House, a quorum call vote for all members to come to the floor as they continue efforts to elect a new speaker. After this, members expected to proceed to the third ballot for the election of the Speaker of the House. Also let you know, among Democrats, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries held a press conference earlier. You can watch that online at cspan.org, and we'll be taking your calls and comments after the vote.
You're watching C-SPAN's live coverage of the House of Representatives. A quorum call is in progress right now to determine the number of lawmakers present for a third round of voting in this speaker election race. We want to get your thoughts on this next step here in the House of Representatives, the possibility of Jim Jordan being speaker if he can get the votes, although the reports are that he is likely to lose more votes than he already has in this next round of voting. So the phone numbers: Republicans 202-748-8921, Democrats 202-748-8920, and all others 202-748-8922. We'll get to your calls in a minute here. Michael Schnell is joining us, a congressional reporter with the Hill newspaper. Michael Schnell, why are they taking this quorum call right now? And what do you expect the number will be of those present for a possible third vote?
Yes, so this has been the course of action for the previous two speaker votes as well. The quorum call is really important when you're talking about a speaker election, because we need to see how many members of Congress are actually in the chamber today, because that will determine how many votes Jim Jordan needs, or rather any speaker candidate needs, to clinch the nomination on the House floor. Of course, you need a majority of the chamber or a majority of the members present to win the gavel. Typically speaking, that's 218 votes. But there are currently 2 vacancies right now. That brings the magic number, so to speak, down to 217. As of right now, we know of one sure Republican absent, Congressman Derrick Van Orden, a Republican from Wisconsin. He's currently on a fact-finding mission in Israel, so he will not be present for today's vote. That, if he's the only absence, that's not expected to bring down that magic number, but it'll mean that Jim Jordan will only be able to lose 3 Republican votes rather than 4 Republican votes and still clinch the gavel. Of course, way more holdouts, lawmakers, Republican lawmakers, have said that they do not plan to vote for Jim Jordan and haven't voted for him in the past. So this is likely not to be a successful vote for him. But that gets back to the quorum call and why this is a really important step in this entire speaker landscape.
So what is the number expected of opponents today? Will it be more than we have seen in the last 2 rounds of balloting?
That's what a lot of Jordan opponents are predicting. I spoke to Congressman Don Bacon yesterday, Republican from Nebraska. He voted for Kevin McCarthy on the first 2 ballots. He said he expects the number of Jordan defectors, Jordan holdouts, to increase by 10. So on Tuesday, there were 20 Republicans who withheld support from Jim Jordan, voting for other Republican candidates. On Tuesday, that number swelled to 22. So if Don Bacon's prediction is correct, we could be well into the 30s at this point, which obviously is not a good sign for Jim Jordan and his quest for the gavel.
What happens next if that is the case?
Well, look, Jim Jordan held a brief press conference in the Capitol this morning, giving no indications that he plans to drop out anytime soon. He said that he essentially suggested that he's willing to work through the weekend and continue voting on his speakership bid until there is a speaker in place. So the expectation is that if this vote does not work out for Jim Jordan, which, as I laid out before, is the likely outcome, he's likely to go back to the floor, bring his nomination for a 4th vote, risking again that possibility of the number of opponents increasing. But to him, he thinks that, continuing to bring it to the floor, putting pressure on those holdouts as the government funding deadline looms, as there's a war in the Middle East that's intensifying. He's essentially, one would think that he's betting on the idea that some of these holdouts will potentially fatigue, or as time goes on, they'll be more open to negotiating, having conversations. But yeah, Jim Jordan this morning, no indication that he plans to step down anytime soon.
There is reporting from inside the chamber as this quorum call is taking place by your colleagues on Capitol Hill that there are lawmakers in the chamber who have some casual outfits on, indicating that they are not taking this threat of working over the weekend seriously, or they plan to leave anyway.
Well, look, I'm not going to try to speculate Congress's dress code, what they're wearing today. It is Friday. Sometimes it's a more casual Friday up here on Capitol Hill. I will note it has been a very long few weeks for Congress. If my count is correct, this is the third week that the House has actually been in the building in a row. I'm sorry, the sixth week that the House has been in the building in a row. They were supposed to be in session for 3 weeks, then take 2 weeks off and have district work period, and then be back this week. But of course, with this speakership drama, lawmakers have been in the building that entire time. So look, if they're trying to sneak in a pair of jeans or maybe a quarter zip today, I don't know if it's that they're not taking it seriously, but maybe just that they wanted a comfortable Friday as this stalemate drags on.
What happened yesterday after that third vote? This third vote was canceled. Did Jim Jordan meet behind closed doors with these opponents?
Yeah, so Jim Jordan, so initially the way yesterday was supposed to go was a conference meeting in the morning, a House Republican conference meeting behind closed doors, followed by that third vote. But of course, as you mentioned right there, plans for the third vote were spiked. And instead, House Republicans had a nearly 4-hour conference meeting, which even by standards up here on Capitol Hill is a pretty long time to have members behind closed doors and talking. After that closed door meeting, Jordan then went to a different meeting with a handful of those holdouts, those lawmakers who have withheld support for him and have given no indication that they plan to flip. That lasted about 2 hours. And afterwards, those Jordan holdouts left the room saying essentially that they were unchanged. I spoke to one congressman, John Rutherford. When asked if he expressed to Jim Jordan that he has no path to the gavel at this point, Rutherford said that is correct. So coming out of that meeting, holdouts were unmoved. It appears that they are dug in and will continue in that stance. But as I mentioned, Jim Jordan giving no indication he plans to give up anytime soon and is going to continue through this battle.
You can follow Michael Schnell's reporting if you go to thehill.com. Michael Schnell, we appreciate your time. We know you're busy up there. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's go to your calls and get your reaction to what you just learned there from Michael Schnell. Daniel in Canton, Ohio, Republican. Your turn, Daniel.
I see a lot of Republicans in wolves, what do you call it, disguised as wolf.
Okay.
A lot of Republicans I'm starting to see is they're really for real Democrat. They're really for real liberal. Look, I'm from the state of Ohio. We don't, that just says that Jim Jordan represents us. We're not no bull crap.
So you're rooting for Jim Jordan here.
I'm from Ohio. I just said that.
Okay, well, that doesn't necessarily mean be rooting for him, but you are.
He represents the state of Ohio.
All right. Deanne in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Hi, Deanne.
Good morning.
Morning.
I am for Jim Jordan. These few Republicans that are holding out for whatever their reasons, I just pray to God Almighty that he would touch their hearts, and when they stand up on this vote today, that the name Jim Jordan would come out their mouths in Jesus' name, and that the Republicans would stand together. Like I said, the only thing they can learn from the Democrats is they at least stand together. These Republicans need to come together today and confirm Jim Jordan as Speaker of the House in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right, Deanne, and you will find out how each lawmaker votes because the clerk will call them out by last name in alphabetical order. They will give the name, the surname of who they want to be Speaker today. So you'll hear Democrats, as they have all along, say the name Jeffries. We will see what 20 plus Republicans do when it's their turn to nominate from their party a Speaker of the House. Brian in Pierceton, Indiana, independent. Hi, Brian.
Hi. Yeah, I'm for Jim Jordan. These holdouts need to just end their stupidity. All they're doing is exactly like they did with McCarthy, making the Republican Party look like a bunch of idiots. Jeffries has no business even being nominated for Speaker, and Jim Jordan would be a good Speaker of the House.
All right, Brian, following up on the previous caller and the party, calling on the party to be united, YouGov did a poll recently, and this is what they found out. When they surveyed all U.S. adults, they found 51% say it's the Democrats who are united as a party. 16% said Republicans. When you ask Democrats, that number increased to 79%. 40% of independents said Democrats. Look at the number for Republicans. Of those surveyed who are Republican voters, they said 33% said their party is united, while 40% said it's not. Myrtle in Hammers, South Carolina, Republican. Hello, Myrtle.
Hey, how you doing? Good morning. Yes, my comment is I wish these that's holding out too much will come on and vote for Jim Jordan. The guy that's voting for Kevin McCarthy, which you don't want to get back in, should go ahead with Jim Jordan. I seen this same stuff go on when they voted for Kevin, that the little Matt Gaetz was one of the main problems at the end of it, and I see that he was the one that started this about getting McKevin out. They're going to keep on till they get another Democrat in there. It's going to be just the same way with Pelosi, which would be a bad thing. But please, I pray that these Republicans just come on and open up and vote for Jim.
All right.
Thank you.
The quorum call, the bed check to see who is here in Washington and who is in the chamber for this next round of voting for Speaker is out of time. But as you can see under the NV, not voting column, there are 9 lawmakers. So they will likely keep this open until they get those 9 in the chamber and marked as present. And then they will move on to nomination speeches, as you've heard before. After that, it will be the roll call vote for Speaker of the House. Tom in Hanover, Illinois, Democratic caller. Hi, Tom.
Hi. So, honestly, the Republicans that are holding out against Jordan have very good reasons. Threatening their families and pressure campaigns, that's not how politics is supposed to work. That's how gangsters work. Our politicians are supposed to be better than that. If there were real problem solvers in the Republican Party, 6 of them would go over, vote for Jeffries, and get the House back open.
Deborah, an independent. Hi, Deborah.
Good afternoon. Good morning. I think that Jim Jordan is a clear and present danger to this country. I would like to see him replaced by, say, a Romney. Someone is a true Republican who believes in the Republican standpoint and the Republican values. The problem with Jim Jordan is he has no values, and he is a liar, and he is a election denier. And also, I think that he is a MAGA, which we do not need anymore. We've had enough of this turmoil for the last 6 years. We need to get down to the business of the country, and I'm afraid that he's going to do something to Social Security and to Medicare, and there's a lot of people in this country who live on those 2 things. Thank you very much for taking my call.
All right, Deborah. Bradley, Elkton, Virginia, Republican. Hi, Bradley.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call.
Hey, Bradley, mute that television, all right? And then you'll be ready to talk through the phone.
I got it muted. Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
All right. I think that Jim Jordan would be a good Speaker of the House. But if this fails this time, I think what they need to do is go back and select another one. And I believe that Representative Ben Klein from Virginia would be a good one. He's worked both sides very well with each other.
All right, Bradley's thoughts there. In Virginia, we are 17 days without a Speaker of the House. YouGov asked that question in their recent poll. By 51% to 5, Americans are more likely to say that the lack of a House Speaker is hurting rather than the helping the U.S. government's ability to do its work. Pamela, Lake Worth, Florida, Democratic caller. Hi, Pamela.
17 days without a Speaker of the House. Jim Jordan and the MAGA Republicans are bringing down the U.S. government from the House of Representatives. We cannot allow Jim Jordan the power of the purse. Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Don't let them touch our Social Security checks.
Pamela, a Democratic caller there in Florida. Ray, also Democrat in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Hi, Ray.
Hi, morning. I honestly believe that our country will be ran a lot better if there was a woman running our country. For the history of our country, the president has always been men. It's time for a woman to take charge of our country and stop all this bickering that's going on right now.
And who would that be, Ray?
We have vilified so many smart women, Hillary Clinton, Carly Fiorina on both sides, also Nancy Pelosi, our current vice president, Kamala Harris. The biggest argument they make about her is the way she laughs. Come on, let's get serious in our country. There are plenty of women, smart women on both sides of the aisle that can do a great job of running this country.
Tampa, Florida. Steve, Republican. Steve, who do you want to be Speaker of the House?
I'd like Jim Jordan to be Speaker, but I'd also back Steve Scalise. My perspective comes from a disappointment in the abridgment of rights by the Biden administration and the deficits that we're running. I know leftists are not concerned with the deficits because I spoke to my son who's a leftist yesterday, but we are running deficits that are going to change America, and the war in Ukraine and how we send money abroad, and also for migrants, we need to help Americans, and the young people can't afford to buy homes. Young people can't afford to have children. And so, you know, I am very concerned about that. And I think we need somebody to be a stop to the Biden administration.
Steve, did you approve of the ousting of Kevin McCarthy as Speaker?
Absolutely. The Inflation Reduction Act was made possible by McConnell and McCarthy. And even Democrats have admitted it doesn't reduce inflation, it's increasing it. And I don't know about you, but, you know, paying for food and gas is becoming impossible.
All right, Steve, we are more than 2 weeks from that day when 8 Republicans voted to oust Kevin McCarthy from the speakership. Today, on this Friday morning, we are watching as there is a quorum call happening in the House of Representatives. As you can see, they're still waiting on 8 members, 2 Republicans, 6 Democrats to make their way to the chamber and mark themselves present so that they can proceed to a 3rd round of ballots for the nomination of Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan pushing forward today with that 3rd vote. He also told reporters and members that he would work through the weekend and keep going with more votes to see if he can gain ground here. According to reports on Capitol Hill, however, the opposition will grow today. We heard from Michael Schnell that it was 20 on Tuesday this week, 22 on Wednesday, and today there are reports that it could be 30 plus of his GOP colleagues who vote in opposition to him as Speaker. Jimmy in Buffalo, Independent. Hi, Jimmy.
Hey, good morning. I just want to say that as an independent who has voted for who I thought was the best candidate, whether they were Republican or Democratic, I find it very interesting that the Republican Party, especially Kevin McCarthy, is trying to blame Democrats for this fiasco when he himself said he would not reach out across the aisle because he wanted to be a red speaker. This is and I also think it's fair to say that we are constantly lumping Republicans into the MAGA wagon when they're really not. There are Republicans that are moderate, as there are Democrats. There are MAGA people that are part of the cult, the 8 that disposed McCarthy for whatever reason. He did it to himself by agreeing to the one vote for one person to be able to bring it to the floor. We need to stop vilifying true Republicans. Push the blame where it belongs. It starts with Donald Trump and works its way down. Thank you.
All right. YouGov did another poll on whether or not it was a good idea to remove Kevin McCarthy as Speaker, and they found by 43 to 36%, Republicans now disapprove of the removal of Kevin McCarthy. That was at 33 to 32% around early October, and they saw that number increase for Republicans, 43 to 37, 36% early October, and it has grown that more Republicans disapprove of his removal. Mary in Port Austin, Michigan, Democratic caller.
Hi, I'm glad to see Jim Jordan losing. He does not ever need to be Speaker of the House. You cannot have an election denier in that position. It's time for the moderate Republicans to work with the Democrats on a power-sharing agreement and get our government back in business. Thank you.
All right. Now, this is just a quorum call. This is not the vote. As you can see, they are just finding out who's present right now. And there are 2 Republicans missing, 4 Democrats missing. It doesn't look like they're in a hurry to bring this quorum to a close because they want everyone that is in Washington, all the lawmakers in Washington, in the chamber for this next round of voting for Speaker. We've learned earlier from Michael Schnell, and you've probably heard the reporting as well, that there are 2 vacancies in the House. So the total number of lawmakers in the House of Representatives is 433, but today it'll be 432 because Congressman Derrick Van Orden, a Republican of Wisconsin, a Jordan supporter, will not be here in Washington. He is in Israel for a fact-finding trip. Leisha in Derry, New Hampshire, Republican. Hi there.
Hi. I am a Jim Jordan supporter. And I'm hearing a lot from Democrats thinking that we are divided. What the Republicans are in the process of doing are cleaning out the rhinos. They're exposing themselves, and those who are putting their personal differences before what the people want, and the people are being very clear that we want Jim Jordan. It's also on the internet, through social media, that a lot of us, long-term Republicans, are thinking of changing and creating a new party. We are not MAGA. We are people who are tired of the same old in our government.
Leisha, how do you know it's Americans who want Jim Jordan to be Speaker, or Republican voters, that they want Jim Jordan to be Speaker?
Because I do extensive, in-depth studying on the internet. I do it, and I try to get a lot of information and simplify the complicated issues. I read comments, I do my own data analysis, and I do it as a hobby. I'm seeing a trend, and the trend is in the favor of conservative Republicans, because people are going back to being conservative because...
All right.
On this roll call, 427 members have recorded their presence. The question now recurs on the election of a Speaker. If the tellers will please come forward. House will come to order. Nominations are now in order. The chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. McCarthy.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to nominate Jim Jordan for the Speaker of the House. Now, I've listened to the speeches this week, and I can already tell you what my friends on the other side will say using their poll-tested phrases. But let me correct the record. Jim Jordan is an effective legislator. To legislate is about more than the name on the bill. It's about reaching compromise and working long hours behind the scenes to get the job done.
The House will come to order. Gentleman may resume.
When you are the chairman of a committee, you are responsible for dozens of bills passing the House and being signed into law. So let me tell you a few facts that don't come out in the polls. As the leader of the Judiciary Committee, Jim has passed more bills through the House in just 3 years than the entire Democrat leadership team that has their collective 28 years in Congress. Mr. Aguilar has a whopping one whole bill signed into law, a post office in San Bernardino. I guess that's good enough to be caucus chair. Jim Jordan, on the other hand, has a hand in drafting bills like the REINS Act to curb unaccountable bureaucrats. He helped negotiate and pass H.R. 2, the strongest border security bill this House has ever passed. And many of you know, because you were in the room, watching Jim find compromise, watching Jim listen to your positions, and finding a bill that can pass. And let's put this in reality. We've had large majorities, but we never could pass a border security bill. That takes leadership. Now, they're going to get upset by it. Why? Because every single Democrat voted against securing our border. Democrats are attacking Jim because they don't want the American people to remember that they voted against securing and keeping a wide open border. They may not want the American public to know the number of people we catch on the terrorist watch list. They may not want people to know what the future holds in the security for our nation based upon their policies. Name me one bill Democrats passed that would secure our border. I'm waiting. You can't, because they haven't. Mr. Speaker, the truth is, if we measure lawmakers by how many bills have their name on it, we are using the wrong measuring stick. Some of my members I know with the most bills to their name are the most selfish. Jim Jordan, on the other hand, is one of the most selfless members I've known. I've known Jim a long time, so I want to do something different. I actually called the freshman members on his committee and asked them, what do you think of your chairman? Here's just a few. I quote, Jim empowers every member of judiciary to pursue what interests them. I quote by another, he lets each of us take the lead on the issues that are important to us, even letting freshmen and junior members take important roles. Another one, he trusts our judgment on how we handle issues and witnesses, and always seeks our input on key issues. Another, as a freshman, he had me lead off a hearing that related to my subject matter expertise, and he goes out of his way to highlight member successes. He is straightforward, honest, and reliable. That is who Jim Jordan is, and that's what being a speaker is all about. Now, some of you might not know this, but Jim and I have a long history. We created because we take our job serious. I first met Jim as a candidate. I traveled to Ohio. I remember pulling up for breakfast at a Bob Evans in Ohio. There was Jim having a meeting, listening to constituents. I traveled with him throughout the day, from Rotary to Farm Bureau, to just listening to people that had concerns. And I watched them, the same Jim Jordan I see today. He was a leader, a listener, and a fighter. We were actually elected to Congress that same year and became close friends. It was a small class. There was only 13 of us. It was one of the smallest Republican classes in modern history. Over time, we took different routes. Jim actually ran against me for leader in 2018. It was a hard-fought battle. But I never once questioned his skills or commitment to this conference or this country. After the race, I became leader, and we had an opening for the ranking member on House Oversight. Jim didn't even apply for the job. I walked into steering. Didn't tell steering. I walked into the other room, and I picked up the phone, and I called Jim. I said, I know you're not running for the job, but I believe in what Jim Collins says in the book, Good to Great. You put the right people in the right seats on the bus. And Jim, you and I may have challenged one another, but you were the right person for that seat. And it was right when he took that job. It was right again when I asked Jim to step up and join the Intel Committee when Democrats put politics over people and turned the Intel Committee into an impeachment committee. It was right again when we asked Jim to step up and be the right person to lead Judiciary Committee as chairman. And Jim is the right person to take that seat behind me to be our next Speaker of the House. Mr. Speaker, we have an important job to do. The American people expect us to focus on the most pressing issues. We've watched what the Democrat majority has done and brought us inflation like we haven't seen since the 70s. We've watched what the Democrats have done by opening up our border, bringing fentanyl, killing Americans each and every day. And now we have a war in Israel. This country is too great for small visions. Trust me, being Speaker is not an easy job, especially in this conference. But I've seen Jim spend his entire career fighting for freedom, no matter what, no matter the odds, and I know he is ready for the job. And so it is my honor to say, as a member of the Republican Conference, I am directed by the vote of that conference to present for the election to the office of Speaker of the House of Representatives the name of my friend, the Honorable Jim Jordan, a representative from the state of Ohio. I yield back.
The chair now recognizes the gentlewoman from Massachusetts, Ms. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 212, it's a New York area code, and it's our call for a speaker of integrity, intelligence, and inclusion. 212 is our call for a speaker who will protect our children, our veterans, our planet. 212 is our call for a speaker who will grow the middle class, lower costs, create good-paying jobs, and make health care affordable. 212 is our call for a speaker who will secure liberty, justice, and opportunity for everyone. Well, the unanimous call of 212 House Democrats has been answered by our nominee for Speaker, the gentleman from Brooklyn, the leader of our House Democratic Caucus, the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries. Leader Jeffries has answered our call, but the majority's nominee is disconnected from the American people and their values. MAGA extremism is designed to divide, and it has broken the Republican Party. Their nominee's vision is a direct attack on the freedom and the rights of the American people, and he's got the record to prove it. The Republican nominee has voted against health care for children, for veterans, even for 9/11 survivors. He has opposed lowering the cost of insulin repeatedly. He wants to cut Social Security and Medicare. Don't take it from me. It was raised on the other side of the aisle just this week as a selling point to make him Speaker. Over his 16 years in the House, the Republican nominee has never supported a farm bill. What does that mean? What does that mean? It means he has turned his back on farmers, on rural communities, and the 11 million children who go to bed hungry in this country. The Republican nominee wants a national abortion ban with no exceptions for rape, incest, or the health of a mother. We want to make our own health care decisions in consultation with our families, our doctors, our faith, not with Jim Jordan. The Republican nominee plotted to overturn the 2020 election, traffics in misinformation, and is a true threat to our democracy and our Constitution. I have had the privilege of working here in the People's House for almost 10 years. And I've gotten to know many of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. And I know that you hear the same thing that I do. The American people expect us to work together on their behalf. It is not too late for the majority to choose a bipartisan path forward to reopen the House. Take yes for an answer. Every day, the majority chooses to engage in a Republican civil war that is threatening their own members instead of engaging with us in the work of the American people is a day that weakens this institution and the standing of our country. We need a speaker who will govern through consensus, not conflict. We need a speaker worthy of wielding that gavel, a leader who will defend democracy, not degrade it. More than ever, we need proven, patriotic, people-first leadership. And that is why I am proud to nominate Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker of the House.
The reading clerk will now call the roll.
Adams. Jeffries. Adderholt. Jordan. Aguilar. Jeffries. Alford. Jordan. Allen. Jordan. Allred. Jeffries. Amodei. Jordan. Armstrong. Jordan. Arrington. Jordan. Auchincloss. Jeffries. Babin. Jordan. Bacon. McHenry. Baird. Jordan. Balderson. Jordan. Ballant. Jeffries. Banks. Jordan. Barr. Jordan. Bedegan. Jeffries. Bean of Florida. Jordan. Beatty. Jeffries. Bentz. Jordan. Barra. Jeffries. Bergman. Jordan. Beyer. Jeffries. Bice. Jordan. Biggs. Jordan. Bilirakis. Jordan. Bishop of Georgia. Jeffries. Bishop of North Carolina. Jordan. Blumenauer. Jeffries. Blunt Rochester. Jeffries. Boebert. Jordan. Bonamici. Jeffries. Bast. Bast. Bowman. Jeffries. Boyle of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. Burkeen. Jordan. Brown. Jeffries. Brownlee. Jeffries. Buchanan. Donalds. Buck. Emmer. Bouchon. Jordan. Budzinski. Jeffries. Burchett. Burchett. Jordan. Burgess. Jordan. Burleson. Jordan. Bush. Jeffries. Calvert. Jordan. Kamek. Jordan. Caraveo. Jeffries. Carbajal. Jeffries. Cardenas. Jeffries. Carey. Jordan. Carl. Jordan. Carson. Jeffries. Carter of Georgia. Jordan. Carter of Louisiana. Jeffries. Carter of Texas. Jordan. Cartwright. Jeffries. Kassar. Jeffries. Case. Jeffries. Caston. Jeffries. Castor of Florida. Jeffries. Castro of Texas. Jeffries. Chavez DeReamer. McHenry. Shearfullis McCormick. Jeffries. Chu. Jeffries. Siscomani. Jordan. Clark of Massachusetts. Jeffries. Clark of New York. Jeffries. Cleaver. Jeffries. Klein. Jordan. Cloud. Jordan. Clyburn. Jeffries. Clyde. Jordan. Cohen. Jeffries. Cole. Jordan. Collins. Jordan. Comer. Jordan. Connolly. Jeffries. Correa. Jeffries. Costa. Jeffries. Courtney. Jeffries. Craig. Jeffries. Crane. Jordan. Crawford. Jordan. Crenshaw. Jordan. Crockett. Jeffries. Crow. Jeffries. Cuellar. Jeffries. Curtis. Jordan. Davids of Kansas. Jeffries. Davidson. Jordan. Davis of Illinois. Jeffries. Davis of North Carolina. Jeffries. Dean of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. DeGette. Jeffries. De la Cruz. Jordan. DeLauro. Jeffries. Del Bene. Jeffries. DeLuzio. Jeffries. DeSagne. Jeffries. Desjardins. Jordan. D'Esposito. Zeldin. Diaz-Balart. Scalise. Dingle. Jeffries. Doggett. Jeffries. Donalds. Jordan. Duarte. Jordan. Duncan. Jordan. Dunn of Florida. Jordan. Edwards. Jordan. Elsie. Mike Garcia. Emmer. Jordan. Escobar. Jeffries. Eshu. Jeffries. Espaillat. Jeffries. Estes. Jordan. Evans. Jeffries. Ezel. Jordan. Fallon. Jordan. Feenstra. Jordan. Ferguson. Scalise. Finstad. Jordan. Fischbach. Jordan. Fitzgerald. Jordan. Fitzpatrick. McHenry. Fleischman. Jordan. Fletcher. Jeffries. Flood. Jordan. Foster. Jeffries. Fushi. Jeffries. Fox. Fox. Lois Frankel. Jeffries. Scott Franklin. Jordan. Frost. Jeffries. Fry. Jordan. Fulcher. Jordan. Gaetz. Jordan. Gallagher. Jordan. Gallego. Jeffries. Garamendi. Jeffries. Garbarino. Zeldin. Mike Garcia. Jordan. Robert Garcia. Jeffries. Garcia of Illinois. Jeffries. Garcia of Texas. Jeffries. Jimenez. McCarthy. Golden of Maine. Jeffries. Goldman of New York. Jeffries. Gomez. Jeffries. Tony Gonzalez. Scalise. Vicente Gonzalez. Vicente Gonzalez. Good of Virginia. Jordan. Gooden of Texas. Jordan. Gosar. Jordan. Gottheimer. Jeffries. Granger. Scalise. Graves of Louisiana. Jordan. Graves of Missouri. Jordan. Green of Tennessee. Jordan. Green of Texas. Jeffries. Green of Georgia. Jordan. Griffith. Jordan. Grijalva. Jeffries. Grothman. Jordan. Guest. Jordan. Guthrie. Jordan. Hageman. Jordan. Harder of California. Jeffries. Harris. Jordan. Harshbarger. Jordan. Hayes. Jeffries. Hearn. Jordan. Higgins of Louisiana. Jordan. Higgins of New York. Jeffries. Hill. Jordan. Himes. Jeffries. Henson. Jordan. Horsford. Jeffries. Houchin. Jordan. Houlihan. Jeffries. Hoyer. Jeffries. Hoyle of Oregon. Jeffries. Hudson. Jordan. Huffman. Jeffries. Huizinga. Jordan. Hunt. Hunt. Isa. Jordan. Ivy. Ivy. Jeffries. Jackson of Illinois. Jeffries. Jackson of North Carolina. Jeffries. Jackson of Texas. Jordan. Jackson Lee. The Honorable Hakeem Jeffries. Jacobs. Jeffries. James. Donalds. Jayapal. Jeffries. 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 Johnson of Georgia. Jeffries. Johnson of Louisiana. Jordan. Johnson of Ohio. Jordan. Johnson of South Dakota. Jordan. 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 Joyce of Ohio. Jordan. Joyce of Pennsylvania. Jordan. Cam Lager-Dove. Jeffries. Captor. Jeffries. Kane of New Jersey. McCarthy. Keating. Jeffries. Kelly of Illinois. Jeffries. Kelly of Mississippi. Jordan. Kelly of Pennsylvania. Scalise. Kana. Jeffries. Kiggins of Virginia. McHenry. Kildee. Jeffries. Kiley. Jordan. Kilmer. Jeffries. Kim of California. Jordan. Kim of New Jersey. Jeffries. Krishnamurthy. Jeffries. Custer. Jeffries. Kustoff. Jordan. LaHood. Jordan. La Lota. Zeldin. LaMalfa. Jordan. Lamborn. Jordan. Landsman. Jeffries. Langworthy. Jordan. Larson of Washington. Jeffries. Larson of Connecticut. Jeffries. Latta. Jordan. LaTurner. Jordan. Lawler. McHenry. Lee of California. Jeffries. Lee of Florida. Jordan. Lee of Nevada. Jeffries. Lee of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. Ledger Fernandez. Jeffries. Lesko. Jordan. Letlow. Jordan. Levin. Jeffries. Liu. Jeffries. Lofgren. Jeffries. Loudermilk. Jordan. Lucas. Jordan. Lutkemeyer. Jordan. Luna. Jordan. Luttrell. Jordan. Lynch. Jeffries. Mace. Jordan. Magaziner. Jeffries. Maliotakis. Jordan. Mann. Jordan. Manning. Jeffries. Massey. Jordan. Mast. Jordan. Matsui. Jeffries. McBath. Jeffries. McCarthy. Jordan. McCall. Jordan. McLean. Jordan. McClellan. Jeffries. McClintock. Jordan. McCullum. Jeffries. McCormick. Jordan. McGarvey. Jeffries. McGovern. Jeffries. McHenry. Jordan. Meeks. Jeffries. Menendez. Jeffries. Mang. Jeffries. Muser. Jordan. Mfume. Jeffries. Miller of Illinois. Jordan. Miller of Ohio. Jordan. Miller of West Virginia. Jordan. Miller Meeks. McHenry. Mills. Jordan. Molinaro. Zeldin. Molinar. Jordan. Mooney. Jordan. Moore of Alabama. Jordan. Moore of Utah. Jordan. Moore of Wisconsin. Jeffries. Moran. Jordan. Morelli. Jeffries. Moskowitz. Jeffries. Moulton. Jeffries. Mervan. Jeffries. Mullen. Jeffries. Murphy. Jordan. Nadler. Jeffries. Napolitano. Jeffries. Neal. Jeffries. Negus. Jeffries. Nails. Jordan. Newhouse. Jordan. Nickel. Jeffries. Norcross. Jeffries. Norman. Jordan. Nunn of Iowa. Jordan. Obernolte. Jordan. Ocasio-Cortez. Jeffries. Ogles. Jordan. Omar. Omar. Jeffries. Owens. Jordan. Pallone. Jeffries. Palmer. Jordan. Panetta. Jeffries. Pappas. Jeffries. Pascrell. Jeffries. Payne. Payne. Pelosi. Jeffries. Peltola. Jeffries. Pence. Jordan. Perez. Jeffries. Perry. Jordan. Peters. Jeffries. Pedersen. Jeffries. Pfluger. Jordan. Phillips. Jeffries. Pingree. Jeffries. Pocan. Jeffries. Porter. Jeffries. Posey. Jordan. Presley. Jeffries. Quigley. Jeffries. Ramirez. Jeffries. Raskin. Jeffries. Reschenthaler. Jordan. Rogers of Washington. Jordan. Rogers of Alabama. Jordan. Rogers of Kentucky, Jordan. Rose, Jordan. Rosendale, Jordan. Ross, Jeffries. Rouser, Jordan. Roy, Jordan. Ruiz, Jeffries. Rupersberger, Jeffries. Rutherford, Scalise. Ryan, Jeffries. Salazar, Jordan. Salinas, Jeffries. Sanchez, Jeffries. Santos, Jordan. Sarbanes, Jeffries. Scalise, Jordan. Scanlon, Jeffries. Schakowsky, Jeffries. Schiff, Jeffries. Schneider, Jeffries. Skolton, Jeffries. Schreier, Jeffries. Schweikert, Jordan. Austin Scott, Jordan. David Scott, Jeffries. Scott of Virginia, Jeffries. Self, Jordan. Sessions, Jordan. Sewell, Jeffries. Sherman, Jeffries. Sherrill, Jeffries. Simpson, Scalise. Slotkin, Jeffries. Smith of Missouri, Jordan. Smith of Nebraska, Jordan. Smith of New Jersey, Jordan. Smith of Washington, Jeffries. Smucker, Jordan. Sorensen, Jeffries. Soto, Jeffries. Spanberger, Jeffries. Sparts, Jordan. Stansbury, Jeffries. Stanton, Jeffries. Stauber, Westerman. Steele, Jordan. Stefanik, Jordan. Style, Jordan. Stubbe, Jordan. Stevens, Jeffries. Strickland, Jeffries. Strong, Jordan. Swalwell, Jeffries. Sykes, Jeffries. Takano, Jeffries. Tenney, Jordan. Tanadar, Jeffries. Thompson of California. Jeffries. Thompson of Mississippi. Jeffries. Thompson of Pennsylvania. Jordan. Tiffany. Jordan. Timmons. Jordan. Titus. Jeffries. Talib. Jeffries. Takuda. Jeffries. Tonko. Jeffries. Torres of California. Jeffries. Torres of New York. Jeffries. Trahan. Jeffries. Trone. Jeffries. Turner. Jordan. Underwood. Jeffries. Valadeo. Jordan. Van Drew.
The Honorable Jim Jordan.
Jordan. Van Dyne. Jordan. Van Orden. Van Orden. Vargas.
Hakeem
Jeffries. Vasquez. Jeffries. VC. Jeffries. Velasquez. Jeffries. Wagner. Jordan. Wahlberg. Jordan. Waltz. Jordan. Wasserman Schultz. Jeffries. Waters. Jeffries. Watson Coleman. Jeffries. Weber of Texas. Jordan. Webster of Florida. Jordan. Winstrup. Jordan. Westerman. Jordan. Wexton. Jeffries. Wild. Jeffries. Williams of Georgia. Jeffries. Williams of New York. Jordan. Williams of Texas. Jordan. Wilson of Florida. Jeffries. Wilson of South Carolina. Jordan. Whitman. Jordan. Womack. Scalise. Yakum. Jordan. Zinke. Jordan.
All right, so the first one you're going to have is Mr. Boss. And then you're going to have Fox. And then you have Vicente Gonzalez. And then Mr. Payne's in here.
What about Hunt?
Yeah, Hunt. And Hunt.
The reading clerk will now call the names of the members who did not answer the first roll call.
Bost. Jordan. Fox. Jordan. Vicente Gonzalez. Vicente Gonzalez. Hunt. Hunt. Payne. Payne. Van Orden. Van Orden.
If there are members, any members who did not answer the call of the roll, they may come to the well and vote at this time.
C-SPAN's live coverage of the House of Representatives, and it looks like the clerks are working to officially tabulate the results of this third round of votes for Speaker of the House. Jim Jordan not getting the votes that he needed. The numbers right now looking like 210 Democrats voting for Hakeem Jeffries. They are missing 2 of their members. 194 for Jim Jordan. 25 Republicans defecting. That number has grown since earlier in the week when there were 20 on Tuesday, 22 on Wednesday, and on this Friday morning, 25 of his GOP colleagues voting against his nomination for Speaker. Live coverage here on the House, here of the House, here on C-SPAN. We are waiting for the official count of this third round of balloting on the nomination of Jim Jordan, the Republican from Ohio, to serve as Speaker. And we are learning from Capitol Hill reporters, Billy House of Bloomberg, Eric Wasson of Bloomberg as well, that the conference, the GOP conference, will head back into a closed-door meeting at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Again, Jim Jordan not getting the magic number he needed today on this third round of balloting to become Speaker.
The House will come to order. The tellers agree in their tally that the total number of votes cast is 429, of which the Honorable Jim Jordan of the state of Ohio has received 194. The Honorable Hakeem Jeffries of the state of New York has received 210. The Honorable Patrick McHenry of the state of North Carolina has received 6. All right, the House will come to order. The House will come to order. The Honorable Baron Donalds of the state of Florida has received 2. The Honorable Tom Emmer of the state of Minnesota has received 1. Lee Zeldin of the state of New York has received 4. The Honorable Steve Scalise of the state of Louisiana has received 8. The Honorable Mike Garcia of the state of California has received 1. The Honorable Kevin McCarthy of the state of California has received 2. The Honorable Bruce Westerman of the state of Arkansas has received 1. No person having received a majority of the whole number of votes cast by surname, a speaker has not been elected. Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the chair declares the House in recess, subject to the call of the chair.
The gavel has come down, and once again, Republicans have refused to accept Jim Jordan as their nominee to be Speaker of the House. We are 17 days now without a Speaker of the House of Representatives. We want to get your reaction to this story on Capitol Hill. Republicans 202-748-8921. Democrats 202-748-8920. All others 202-748-8922. You can also text us, include your first name, city, and state to 202-748-8903. You can post on X with the handle @CSPAN or on Facebook.com/CSPAN. We already have calls lined up. Let's go to them. Sakina in Columbia, Maryland, Republican. Sakina, what did you make of this third round of votes today?
Well, I'm actually very, very disappointed in the Republicans. I'm not sure what they're doing. I know politics, it's important, yet it's still, in some ways, it's a game, and you have to play the game. It seems as though the Democrats know how to play the game. You may not want Jordan, but he is the person that's there now, and he needs the votes, and they should just give him the votes, stick together, and get it done. It doesn't make any sense.
Sakina, the opposition is growing. He lost more votes today.
He lost more votes. Unbelievable.
So you think they should stick with him?
Well, they should have. I don't know what to do at this point. I would even say, for me, I really think a really smart move is to have Trump as the interim speaker.
Okay, Sakina, I'm gonna put you on hold. Let's go to the Capitol steps. Matt Gaetz is talking to reporters.
Jordan have no goals, have no asks, have no objectives other than to see the 8 of us suffer some consequence for having removed McCarthy. So we've made them an offer. The 8 of us have said that we are willing to accept censure, sanction, suspension, removal from the Republican conference. We, of course, will remain Republicans. We will continue to vote with Republicans on Republican principles. But if what these holdouts need is a pound of our flesh, we're willing to give it to them in order to see them elect Jim Jordan for Speaker.
The world's on fire, and some of these colleagues,
That's
the world's on fire, and some of your colleagues do blame you for this disruption.
Well, I would say that we've got a speaker designate. We could elect him. We could have a speaker right now. And, you know, I think the world was on fire when America sat atop a $33 trillion debt with no plan to reduce spending. I think the world was on fire as we watched the dollar just continue to slip away in its status as the global reserve currency. So maybe when the lobbyists and the special interests don't have total control of a Speaker of the House, they think the world is on fire and in chaos. But we actually believe this is governing, this is legislating, this is working through our differences. We believe Jim Jordan is an inspirational Republican candidate for House Speaker. And for those who are holding out, we would simply ask, you know, what do you want? other than for us to suffer some consequence, which we stand ready to endure.
For 9.5 months, the Republican Party failed the American people. We delivered no wins for the American people in the first 9.5 months. The two opportunities we had to force positive change for the American people with the Democrat Senate and Democrat White House was the debt ceiling and the continuing resolution, both of which we did what Democrats overwhelmingly wanted us to do. Jim Jordan represents a chance to put a fighter and a leader at the top of the Republican conference that will actually work for the American people instead of the special interests.
Congressman, those that you're talking about, you say that they just want to punish you. But when I talk to them, they say that they have real problems with Jim Jordan, that they see strong-arm tactics, they see the way he treated Steve Scalise, they don't trust him. They're saying the same things you said about Kevin McCarthy. And how do you not respect that kind of point of view?
Well, we know Jim Jordan. I've worked with Jim Jordan on the House Judiciary Committee. He's not a person who leads through strong-arm tactics. I think that Jim Jordan is being unfairly blamed by some for the tactics of outside groups that Jim Jordan has no control over. You know, we want to meet with our colleagues. We want to understand how they can get to a comfort level with Jim Jordan. You know, we in January allowed the ascent of Kevin McCarthy to the speakership. We had specific goals. When, you know, those promises were made to meet those goals, we were willing to work with the team. So our call is to our fellow Republicans to vote with the team, work with the team, help us elect a Republican speaker.
And hold on real quick. How can you say that these are strong-arm tactics? How can anybody say strong-arm tactics? We've had, what, 3 votes in the entire week? Back in January, you guys remember, it was vote after vote after vote after vote. Jim holds 1 vote, and then he goes and he tries to talk to these folks. And here's the other thing about Jim Jordan. I hear a lot in this conference about, oh, you got to support the team, you got to support the conference, you got to support the majority. What do the American people say? Are you guys hearing what the American people are saying? He is the #2 most popular Republican in the entire country. The vast majority of Americans want Jim Jordan. And one of the problems in this town is a lot of the representatives up here don't really care what the American people have to say about it.
The American people certainly say they want a speaker.
Kevin McCarthy back in January only lost votes for 9 rounds. It wasn't until the 12th round that he gained even 1 vote. Jim Jordan has had 3 votes. He's got roughly 200 Republicans supporting him. And so I guess it sounds better to smear Jim Jordan, to blame him for the actions of others that he does not control, than to tell your constituents that you don't want to vote for the person that they want to lead the party and that you want to vote to continue to represent the special interests in Washington instead of the grassroots Republicans who gave us the majority.
It's heading the wrong way.
I just pointed out to you, Kevin McCarthy lost votes for 9 rounds. Jim Jordan has been voted upon for 3 rounds. Kevin McCarthy did not gain 1 vote until the 12th round when 14 out of 20 members flipped their vote. And yet folks want to report that, hey, Jim Jordan has no path to victory after 2 rounds, now 3 rounds. We believe that if we keep voting, Jim Jordan will be elected speaker.
And let me make a point. This is not about us. This is bigger than us. That's why we're offering ourselves on this thing. So I think that needs to be made clear. It's not about the 435. It's about the 8 of us saying this is what we'll do.
Are you all concerned at all that is going on? Some in your party will try to work with Democrats to pass a resolution to empower the Speaker pro tem.
That's always an option, but I just don't see that. And why would Hakeem Jeffries, who's on record of denying multiple elections, why would he, if he had that working in secret, why would he disclose that to the public? That's just to cast doubt. And you know, Pavlov's dog, he rings the bell and everybody comes run salivating. And it's just not accurate.
Republicans across the country should take note that when Patrick McHenry read his own number of votes that he received, the Democrat side of the chamber cheered roundly for that. So,
would you support a resolution to remove Patrick McHenry as Speaker pro tem?
I think he's doing a fine job as Speaker pro tem. He needs to stay in that role and do his one job, which is also our primary job, which is elect the Speaker.
And by the way, Speaker McHenry pro tem deserves credit for resisting calls to expand the pro tem role beyond how it is contemplated in the Constitution. Patrick McHenry has earned our respect for having abided by the limitations on the power of the pro tem position, and for that, he should be commended.
And just to clarify, what are the things that you're willing to do? You said remove from conference, remove from committees. What is that?
Well, you know, we're eager to better understand how those who are unwilling to vote for Jim Jordan would react to our willingness to accept some consequence. We violated no rules of the House. We violated no rules of the House Republican Conference.
That were voted on unanimously.
Yeah, but if
Kevin McCarthy voted for these rules.
Yeah, but if what people need is to see, the 8 of us wrapped on the knuckles in order to get on to the business of governing, what we're saying is we're open-minded to that.
We believe what we did was right. We stand behind what we did. We believe the Republican Party, the Republican Conference needs to change. Congress needs to change. However, if we're the reason that the conference can't come together and elect our speaker designee, then we're willing to submit ourselves to whatever consequence.
Committee assignments.
Well, we've said if you were removed from the conference, I suppose that would mean that you would lose your committee assignments, but we would remain proud members of the Republican Party as nominated by our respective districts. We share the Republican Party's stated objectives and values, but we're telling the conference if they want to bring consequence to us individually, and if that would help them to elect Jim Jordan as Speaker, then we're willing to submit.
You mentioned that they should just continue to keep voting, that Mr. McCarthy went 15 rounds and he was inevitably elected Speaker.
We need to keep voting.
Now, Mr. Nels came out here and said that his 4th vote is going to be for Mr. Trump. Are you worried that more of your colleagues are going to flip in some other direction?
Well, I'm pretty sure Troy Nels isn't going to stand between Jim Jordan and the speakership. I've got a pretty high confidence.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all so much.
What about the threat?
Well, I mean that's the goal with this letter.
Some breaking news there on Capitol Hill. Tim Burchett, Eli Crane, Bob Good, and Matt Gaetz, 4 of the 8 who voted to oust Kevin McCarthy from the speakership, saying they're offering up a punishment of themselves if that would help the conference come together behind Jim Jordan. They would accept a censure. They would accept removal from the conference, which would remove them from committees. And you heard them vowing to continue to support the Republican Party in votes. Let's listen to Nancy Mace, also one of those 8 who voted to oust Kevin McCarthy.
Do you think frustration will grow if we go to more votes, or just can you describe?
Well, certainly the pressure some members are feeling for not voting the will of the people they represent, for not voting the will of their voters and their constituents. They're feeling that pressure, as they should. The people want Jim Jordan, and that's who they want. But instead, some of our colleagues are putting personal politics ahead of the people, and we have a huge opportunity to change the direction of our conference, to change the direction of our country with leadership that is honest, trustworthy, and works hard. And at the very minimum, that's what the American people want, that's what they need, and that is what they deserve.
But what do you say to them for the fact that, you voted your conscience 2 weeks ago? Maybe these members are voting their conscience. I mean, how do you say
they
that
have
they
to square that away with their voters?
But what about the people receiving death threats? I mean,
I received 4 death threats last weekend. I received another one the week before that, another one 2 weeks before that. I've had my house vandalized 3 times in 3 years. I've had my car keyed twice. In fact, the truck I drive at home is still keyed because I haven't had time to get it fixed. I've had 2 family members this summer had their cars broken into. My 80-year-old parents have been threatened. Their lives have been threatened multiple times. I've had siblings whose lives have been threatened. My fiance has had threats. This is something that I've been dealing with for 3 years. It breaks my heart that some of my colleagues are going through this. I go through this almost every single day. I have to carry a gun when I'm home. When I do public events, I have to have security because of the death threats that I receive. And it's been going on for years, and it's a reflection of the times that we're in. I see it from both sides of the aisle, and it breaks my heart, which is why I just want a leader who's going to be honest, who's going to tell the truth, and is going to work hard for the people of this country.
But do you think that the people are behind Jim Jordan, but the numbers are only getting worse for him? So what gives you evidence that people are actually behind him?
If you look at your constituents who are calling into your office, the people that support Jim Jordan, it's overwhelmingly positive, and they'll have to square that away with their voters and with their constituents. That's not on me, that's on them. I would like us to see us come together. I don't think we should leave this place until we elect a speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nancy Mace, Republican of South Carolina, talking to reporters there. She is in Jim Jordan's camp. She and other Republicans are heading behind closed doors at 1 p.m. Eastern time for what reporters on Capitol Hill are calling another family meeting. We will see what comes out of that. So here are some other tweets from reporters on Capitol Hill to give you the latest. Jake Sherman, several House Republicans tell us that they will vote in a closed meeting as to whether Jim Jordan should remain the party's nominee for Speaker. So that could happen behind closed doors in about 40 minutes. You also have Eric Wasson. Jordan doesn't answer when I asked him if he will go another round. All he told reporters is, we're heading to conference. Let's go back up to Capitol Hill. Another lawmaker talking to reporters.
Consequences, being kicked out of committees or the conference as a whole, if that would help the Republican Party come together and elect a speaker?
Well, we'd still need their votes. I mean, that's the thing. We got to stop focusing on the rearview mirror and look forward, because when you have a narrow majority, you can lose four. You can lose right now. So I want to talk about retribution or dark consequences for folks. I disagreed with the motion to vacate. 96% of our conference disagreed with the motion to vacate. 4% voted for this chaos. 100% of the Democrats voted for this chaos. So I think it's rich that you have Democrats throwing, look at, oh, we're the adults in the room, these guys are children. Okay, 100% of you voted for this. We had a speaker. So I think that's
so then what is the path forward for you? I mean, they're saying, okay, if their solution here is retribution, but what do you think the path forward is? How do you see the 8 who outvoted House McCarthy? They're saying, okay, it seems like the only solution is for us to face retribution.
No.
You're saying that's not it, but what do you think is the path forward?
The path forward is to respect the conference rules and the spirit of the precedent and go through a process, have a nominee, and have 221 Republicans go vote for that person. They didn't have the Democrats didn't have that problem. You don't see that problem really all over the country with the state capitals. There's a reason you get a majority of the majority, and you go out on the floor and you make it official.
So at this point, you want the 25 who are voting against Jordan now to just go behind Jordan. Is that kind of where you're at?
Well, I'm always a big. Steve Scalise should be the Speaker of the House today, because he was the first one that won the conference. This is why when you lack party discipline, this is what happens. This is what I said back in January when Kevin McCarthy was having this problem, and it was from on the political spectrum of Republicans. It was on the further right. We all agree with that. Mm-hmm. And I said to them, they're all my friends, when you do this, there could come a day where the people on the other side of the spectrum within our party do it to you. And that's precisely what we have today. It all happened within the same year. I didn't feel like I was Nostradamus or anything, but that's what happened. So how about?
We're going to leave Pat Fallon on the Capitol steps there, Republican of Texas, to go to Hakeem Jeffries holding a news conference on Capitol Hill.
Security interests, so that we can stand by Israel in its time of need, stand by Ukraine in its time of need, stand by our allies throughout the world, provide humanitarian assistance to civilians in Gaza who may be in harm's way, and reach a spending agreement so we can keep the government open, avoid a shutdown, and continue to solve problems on behalf of everyday Americans. House Democrats continue to make clear that we are willing to find a bipartisan path forward so we can reopen the House and solve problems for hard-working American taxpayers. It's time for traditional Republicans to get off the sidelines, get in the arena, realize that the chaos, dysfunction, and extremism has to end, and the only way to do it is to figure out how we can partner in a bipartisan fashion to reopen the House and govern in a reasonable, common sense way. It's time for House Republicans to embrace bipartisanship and abandon extremism once and for all. That embrace bipartisanship and abandon extremism. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Leader. As we know, President Biden sent up this foreign aid package. how concerned are you about moving that forward, not just because of the lack of a speaker, but also given some Republican opposition to additional funding for Ukraine? And what kinds of conversations are you having now to try to shore up support so it's kind of ready to tee up whenever all this gets resolved?
Well, when the House reopens, I'm confident that the votes exist in combination between House Republicans and House Democrats to support a national security package to meet the needs of the American people and the free world. But we have to get the House reopened. Now, it's my expectation that the Senate will begin to act on President Biden's national security package sooner rather than later. But if the House is not reopened, then it will stall unnecessarily and lives will be jeopardized. This is a serious situation, which is why the chaos and the dysfunction has to come to an end. It's now my understanding that you have several extreme MAGA Republicans on the other side of the aisle who are saying they will only ever vote for Jim Jordan. And if that, in fact, is the case, it's an additional data point that there is only one way out, a bipartisan path forward to arrive at a reasonable arrangement to embrace common ground and common sense on behalf of the American people.
I take your point about the bipartisan path, but there's some school of thought that McHenry should just kind of try it out, see if he can put a resolution forward, see if the parliamentarian stops him. Do you think that that's a method that he should explore?
You know, in the aftermath of the September 11th tragedy, this mechanism was put in place for the designation of an acting Speaker pro tem, whose sole responsibility was to organize the House in the context of a Speaker election. That was done under a House Republican majority with bipartisan votes on the Democratic side of the aisle as well. And so it's clear that acting Speaker pro tem McHenry's authority is simply to preside over an election for a permanent speaker. The only other alternative is for the House to act together in a bipartisan way to elevate a speaker pro tem. That doesn't have to be Patrick McHenry. There are many good men and women on the Republican side of the aisle who I believe are patriotic, they care about America, they care about our democracy, they care about the communities that they represent, who would be reasonable individuals to consider. But there's going to have to be a move on the Republican side of the aisle to make a decision to break with the extremists who are tearing the Republican conference apart. It's a mess on the other side of the aisle, and the problem is the American people are paying the price.
It goes without saying right now that the House is pretty dysfunctional. When a new speaker...
The House Republican conference is dysfunctional. The House Democratic caucus is unified.
When a new speaker is elected at some point, what does this dysfunction that you've been seeing vote? How does that vote for the ability to pass supplemental appropriation bills? Are you concerned about that?
Our message to our Republican colleagues is that we need to reopen the House so that we can do things like make sure there's child care funding for working families, middle-class families, and low-income families. We need to reopen the House so we can ensure that the affordable broadband connectivity program that provides access to people all across the country in urban America, rural America, suburban America, small-town America, the middle of America, the heartland of America, and Appalachia has access to affordable internet service. We need to reopen the House of Representatives so that we can provide additional disaster relief to Americans all across the country in blue states, purple states, and red states whose lives have been devastated by extreme weather events. We need to reopen the House to solve problems for hardworking American taxpayers. And House Democrats continue to say We are willing to do that in a bipartisan fashion because clearly the votes do not exist in the House Republican Conference alone to elect a speaker. House Republicans rejected McCarthy. House Republicans rejected Scalise. House Republicans rejected Jordan. House Republicans have apparently rejected McHenry. This can only be done in a bipartisan fashion. And we're serious about partnering with House Republicans in a reasonable way to do the business of the American people. Go back to this side, and then come back to you.
Thank you. Would House Democrat require concession from Congressman McHenry in order to elect him Speaker?
Yeah, we have not discussed concessions because our view is that we want a partnership in the best interest of the American people. That simply requires the House to reopen and function in a bipartisan way so that bills that we know have support from Republicans and Democrats get up or down votes on the House floor and can't be blocked by a marauding band of extremists on the hard right. That's all we want. That's a reasonable ask. Can we govern in a bipartisan way to solve problems for the American people? So it's not about the individual, it's about the interests of everyday Americans, it's about the integrity of our institution, which House Republicans have broken at this moment.
Two questions. One, have you heard from any Republicans today on this Joyce resolution or anything of the sort? Two, do you need a guarantee from them that they will bring the White House supplemental up for a vote before you guys support any kind of resolution like that?
Well, common sense suggests to me that if we are going to reopen the House, it should be done so that the pressing business of the American people is before us, and that would include the national security issues presented by President Biden for Congress's consideration so we can be there for Israel and its right to defend itself against Hamas's terror, for Ukraine and the courageous struggle to defeat Vladimir Putin and Russian aggression, for our allies in the Indo-Pacific, for Palestinian civilians who are in harm's way, and for other parts of the free world. It's also important that we reopen the House so that we can pass an end-of-year spending agreement that meets the needs of the American people, consistent with the Bipartisan Fiscal Responsibility Act that was passed at the end of May and negotiated by House Republicans with President Biden, with more than 300 members of the Congress supporting it in a bipartisan way. We're asking House Republicans simply to do one thing with respect to avoiding a government shutdown and funding the government by the end of the year. Stick to the agreement that you negotiated and supported as a majority at the end of May. These are common sense things. And if there's an agreement to move forward and consider these common sense pieces of legislation, then I think there's a clear bipartisan path in order to reopen the House to solve problems for hardworking American taxpayers.
Have you talked to Republicans today?
I have not.
Do you plan to talk to Republicans about a path forward, or are you waiting for them to call you?
No, there have been ongoing conversations this past weekend and throughout the week, member to member, about coming to an enlightened agreement to reopen the House, because my Republican colleagues understand that they have to find a way to end the GOP chaos, end the GOP dysfunction, end the GOP extremism, and end the House Republican civil war. It's bad for the House Republican Conference, but more importantly, it's bad for the Congress, it's bad for the country, it's bad for the communities that all of us took an oath to fiercely represent.
When you say member-to-member discussions, are you talking about within the Democratic caucus, or Democrats talking one-on-one with Republicans?
Democrats and Republicans having conversations with each other.
Does that involve leadership?
I have not had any conversations with the other side of the aisle. A leader, to talk to is going to have to emerge in order for that to occur.
At what point, if any, do you feel like you need to get involved in those conversations?
Well, the conversations that have been ongoing and in some ways have intensified throughout the week have been serious, and I've been briefed on every single one of them. And it involves different parts of the House Republican Conference because, as we can see on the House floor, there are different parts of the House Republican Conference who have rejected the extremism of Jim Jordan. And so conversations hopefully will intensify today, perhaps continue throughout the weekend, and get us to a place where we can reopen the House no later than Monday of next week.
You think
Thank you,
that's
everyone.
possible, sir?
It's possible.
Monday?
It's possible.
Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries there. We are learning along with all of you. You just heard him tell the American people that conversations have been happening behind the scenes, member to member, Republicans and Democrats, and that those conversations are intensifying about some sort of bipartisan path forward. As many of you may know, Congressman Joyce, a Republican, has a resolution that would give Patrick McHenry, the Speaker pro tem, temporary powers so that they could move legislation to the floor. Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, telling reporters that a leader has to emerge for this conversation to continue to get more serious, for Democrats to have a conversation about whether or not they would support that idea. Now, Republicans, it's 12:36 here on the East Coast. Republicans are slated to meet behind closed doors for a family meeting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We learned from reporters earlier that there is the possibility that Congressman Jim Jordan, who just lost his third round of voting for Speaker, that Republicans tell us that they will vote in the closed-door meeting as to whether Jordan should remain the party's nominee for Speaker. And the Ohio Republican leaving the Capitol today was asked if he will go another round. He did not answer, only telling reporters, we will meet in conference. Sakina, who has been waiting this whole time, listening to these members on the Capitol steps, and then the Democratic leader, a Republican from Columbia, Maryland. Let's get your reaction to what you just heard.
Well, it's very interesting. I think it's interesting that Matt Gaetz would actually have himself censored in order for Jordan to become Speaker. That's quite a plan. I'm very surprised to hear that. And also, Hakeem Jeffries, he continues to talk about bipartisanship, yet all of the Democrats just vote for him. So that kind of doesn't make any sense to me. If you want to have bipartisanship, they have to flip some of their votes also. So I'm
Sakina, he said, Sakina, the Democrats have been united behind Hakeem Jeffries and opposing Jim Jordan as the nominee for Speaker. So as you heard him say, they want to see someone else, a consensus candidate.
Yes, I understand that. But I happen to like Jim Jordan, and, he's called an extremist, but actually I think he's somebody that wants the truth put forward. And I like the work that he does.
Okay.
And so perhaps,
All right, Sakina. Well, thanks for hanging on the line with Scott Wong of NBC News, tweeting out earlier, right after this vote was gavelled down, Jeffries 210, Jordan 194 in this latest round of voting, 25 opposing him. That number has grown from 20 on Tuesday, 22 on Wednesday. Today, because there were absences, the magic number was 214, not 217. He includes a quote there from the Speaker pro tem. A speaker has not been elected. Pete in New Haven, Connecticut, independent.
Hi, I could solve this whole, I have the answer to this whole problem, okay? It's been Trump is the one that's responsible for all this turmoil in the House. And the only way that I think that Jordan can get the votes, even though I'm not happy to see him be chairman, be the House Speaker. But I might change my mind if he comes out of this conference at 1 o'clock and go to the American people after that conference and say that I'm sorry that I mislead you and about the voting that's been rigged. The election has been over 7 million people have voted for Biden, and so that's unanimous. There was no cheating going on. If he can admit that, because former President Trump had brainwashed Jordan and McCarthy, and that's what the problem is. Even 2 days ago on ABC News, the reporter asked Jordan, do you still deny the election? He wouldn't answer that question. He just walked right by and closed the door. So you see, that some of the Republicans are seeing that. They want an honest man to be Speaker. And the only way that's going to happen is to apologize for about the election and distance from Trump totally.
All right, Pete. Kathy in Toledo, Ohio, Democratic caller. Kathy, welcome to the conversation.
Hi, I'm from Ohio, and Jim Jordan is not right for the United States. If their Republicans were smart, they would put a moderate up there that everybody can vote in, because I think the Democrats would come over to the Republican side to nominate a Republican if they picked somebody up that was a moderate and would work with them.
Okay, so who would that moderate be? Do you have a name?
You know, I cannot come up with a name, but I will tell you there is a committee that works together to solve problems in the House between Republicans and Democrats. Perhaps a Republican that sits on that committee.
Well, I'll give you a name then, because the co-chair of the Problem Solvers Caucus is Representative Fitzpatrick from Pennsylvania, and he voted twice in the first 2 rounds of voting for Jim Jordan. He then flipped. That's Brian Fitzpatrick, Republican of Pennsylvania. He flipped today and he voted for Patrick McHenry, the Speaker Pro Tem, making him the first lawmaker today to flip their vote away from Jordan on this round. This is from the Hill newspaper, and the 9th to vote against the Ohio Republican. Jake Sherman noting again for all of you that in about 20 minutes, Republicans will go behind closed doors to decide, does Jim Jordan continue or not? Alexander in St. Augustine, Florida, Republican. Hello, Alexander.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be talking to you on C-SPAN. I just want to start off by saying right now I am ashamed to call myself a Republican. I feel that the party is lurched away from the mainstream, and we have people like Jim Jordan who is seen as the best choice for the party. Obviously now a lot of Republicans are feeling otherwise, and there's a look for more moderate representation, but I don't believe that's there. I'll have to look into the name that you said, but the Republican Party has quite frankly become the party of Trump, and I feel like our values as a party have just been tarnished by Donald Trump and his agenda. Most Republicans nowadays, I would say, they're not Republicans, they're Trumpists. It's kind of become a cult of personality, and we're seeing that now with the speaker race. And with the Speaker of the House being vacant, we've seen kind of inaction in Congress, and we've seen inaction in Congress long before that. But nothing's happening. No votes are being done. And I believe that the longest vacancy in the United States history of a Speaker of the House was 18 days, and right now we're sitting at 17, meaning 2 more days, and this will make history if it has not already. Well, so I am quite displeased.
All right. Well, and Alexander, a lot of history has been made in this Congress and in this year. Reporters noting that this is the 18th roll call vote held in alphabetical order by name for a speaker. 18th vote this year, Alexander.
Wow. Yeah, the whole Kevin McCarthy thing was kind of a joke, too, but I won't get into that. But It's been a pleasure talking to you.
All right, Dennis, in Florida, Independent. Hi, Dennis.
Howdy.
Hi, Dennis. Hello. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was basically a lifelong Republican, slipped over to independent. I always voted for the best person. I left the Republican Party because of the idiocy that's going on. Like today, they can't get their stuff together. They seem to be more radical. I won't vote Democratic because they give away the country, throw the borders open. Politics in the United States today is in the worst situation I've seen in my 75 years around this world.
Some more from the vote. Olivia Beavers for Politico. 3 new no votes today, and 2 Jordan supporters did not vote who were here yesterday. Those Democrats were Representatives the Republicans were Representatives Hunt and Van Orden. They were not here today for the vote. Not as many new no votes as some of my anti-Jordan GOP sources predicted. They had said that there would be an additional 5 to 8 no votes on this third round of voting, but there were 3 additional. Payne and Vicente Gonzalez missed the vote on the Democratic side. So those were the 2 Democrats that were missing. Hakeem Jeffries, as you all know, in each round of voting has secured all 212 of his Democratic colleagues. Today, that number was 210 because those 2 members were missing. Bruce, Portland, Oregon, Democratic caller.
Hi, man. Thank you for taking my call. At first, it was kind of laughable with the McCarthy thing. But now, it's really getting out of hand. These people need to figure it out. And I just hope that, the American voters see this, that, these people in the GOP, they say they care about people. They don't care about people. Because if they cared about people, 17 days ago, they would have had a speaker. I mean, this is nonsense. I hope that we can get a speaker. I hope something. If McHenry doesn't want it, how about somebody, the guy, I believe, I'm not sure what his name is, but he's from Oklahoma. He's an older guy.
Tom Cole.
I don't know.
Bruce, I think you're thinking of Tom Cole.
Yeah, Tom Cole. He seems to get along with everybody. So I don't know. I just hope and pray that these people can, figure this out, because this is embarrassing. I mean, we're getting laughed at around the world, And I just thank you for taking my call.
All right, Bruce. Yeah, Ian Swanson, who covers Capitol Hill, reports at 12:02, right after that vote. Kevin McCarthy, seconds after Jordan loses and a couple of hours after he gave his nominating speech, says that that's a question for Jim when asked if Jordan should drop out. He calls this quite a shift coming from the former speaker. Patrick in Indiana, Republican. We'll go on to Annabelle in Sterling Heights, Michigan. Hi, Annabelle.
Hi. So I've been watching the speaker votes throughout the week on the neoliberal subreddit on Reddit and then through C-SPAN, and I just don't see a way out of this, because the problem is Jordan is a House Freedom Caucus guy, and establishment Republicans and just normal Republicans aren't going to support that. There is no path for him to gain more votes. He's just losing more and more. The only candidate from the Republican Party I could have seen possibly winning, the only 2, are McCarthy and Scalise. I genuinely just don't see anyone else who can possibly win this. So at this point, for me, the best option now is some sort of consensus candidate, because McHenry, obviously, he was talking about setting a precedent, so he's not going to run. But it's a huge mess, and I don't see any way out of it at this point.
Okay. Annabelle's thoughts there in Michigan. The Hill newspaper noting that Representative Mark Molinaro, a Republican of New York, is the 3rd Republican today to flip their vote away from Jordan, joining several fellow New York moderates in voting for former Representative Lee Zeldin. John, Pooler, Georgia, Democratic caller. Hi, John.
How you doing? Thanks for taking my call. I think what the Democrats should do is just make a deal with the moderates. Just ask 5 or 6 of them to come on over, put Jeffries as the speaker, because the Republicans, this is just a clown show. I realize Nancy Mace on the Capitol step complaining about the threats and all what's going on. All this stuff started under Donald Trump. So Trump is the reason for the position that we're in right now. And I think the Democrats should just get together with 5 or 6 Republicans and just say, hey, you know what? I'll offer you this chairmanship. Give them something. Give them something to make him speaker. And I think because the country has to move forward. We cannot stay stagnant. And the only way to do that is to put Hakeem Jeffries as a speaker. Get some Republicans to come on over and join them. Thank you.
Okay. Well, as you mentioned, Nancy Mace was on the Capitol steps, and she was one of the 8 Republicans who ousted Kevin McCarthy from the speakership. The 8 have now written a letter to their colleagues, and Olivia Beavers with the reporting. The 8 who voted to oust McCarthy call for members to elect Jim Jordan, defending their vote. And you heard from Matt Gaetz, Bob Good, Eli Crane, Tim Burchett on the Capitol steps earlier saying, if they need a pound of our flesh, we'll give it. They can kick us out of the conference and we'll lose our committee spots. They can censure us on the House floor. They're willing to do that in exchange for Jim Jordan as Speaker. Betty in Foley, Alabama, independent. Hi, Betty.
Hi. First of all, Jim Jordan needs to step aside. It doesn't appear to be getting any better. He's his type personality and everything. There are people that are just not going to vote for him, or his policies, or so he needs to step aside, and there needs to be some other consensus. So number 2, the 8 people, Gaetz and the 8 people. That's a joke that they're getting more attention now by this offer, and there's plenty of people that are are voting against Jim Jordan that aren't just wanting to punish them, and they're just wanting to get their person elected.
And you have, and I'll just jump
ridiculous.
in to say you have people like Kay Granger, who's the chair of the Appropriations Committee, that she is voting against Jim Jordan because of his record on the government shutdown and appropriations bills.
I think that they're doing that. You know, I mean, they shut the whole thing down by voting against McCarthy when he had, 8 people. He should have never been ousted. I mean, that's a clear majority, and the Democrats need to put their big boy britches on and accept responsibility that they voted to oust him also. So they're partly to blame too. There's plenty of blame to go around. They're not so it's just ridiculous. But I know, and I don't think I'm not embarrassed. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of personalities, and we just need to go on.
All right, Betty there in Independent, Foley, Alabama. Again, those 3 additional no votes on the Republican side came from Mark Molinaro, Republican of New York. This is the Hill newspaper. He flipped today from being a Jordan supporter on this 3rd vote to voting for Lee Zeldin, who's a former member of Congress from New York. And then you had Brian Fitzpatrick, a Republican of Pennsylvania. He too flipped after 2 votes for Jordan today, moving away from the Ohio Republican. And you also had Eric Wasson with this tweet, vulnerable New Jersey Republican Tim Kaine flipping against Jordan. All 3 of those Republicans are in challenging districts, in swing districts. Let's go to Gabe, who's in Franklin, North Carolina. Democrat. Actually, Gabe, hold on. We're going to listen into George Santos, who's talking to reporters on his way into this Republican meeting.
It's time to consider a different candidate? I think that's up to Jim Jordan. If he thinks it's time for him to step down, that's on him. I still support him. I think he should stay in, and I think the conversation should be had. But it comes down to the point of, if we don't have a real family conversation, the tough ones we have on Thanksgiving dinner, that's what needs to happen in there. Not shouting, not screaming, no disrespect, just asking the real questions that I don't think have been asked all the last 2 weeks. All right, thanks, guys. Thank you.
All right, George Santos there on his way into the Republican meeting. We'll see if we can hear from more of them as they make their way behind closed doors. Gabe, though, in Franklin, North Carolina, Democratic caller, thanks for waiting.
Thank you. I think it's a little funny to hear George Santos lecture us about anything. I think that they should go with empowering McHenry. I think he has shown himself to be have connections with both the fire breathers and the more moderate wing. I think if you could get some of the New York Republicans, maybe some of the California Republicans to go along with the Democrats, you could maybe come to a power sharing agreement.
All right, Gabe, and we heard your point, but you're a little muffled, so I'm going to leave it there. Let's listen to Ralph Norman.
So we'll see.
But it doesn't seem like that's what this is about for a lot of them, that they're more opposed to him in principle and that they're profoundly opposed to him, as Mr. Womack said.
And we're profoundly supportive of Mr. Jordan. We're profoundly, his record shows he's been true to his word. He's a true conservative. So everyone's got an opinion, but we're strongly voting for Jordan. I told him that on the floor. He's got a path to victory. And just keep voting until we get there. And let the American people see what's going on here. Stand up like we're doing and casting your vote.
But are you worried the map is just straight up not going in his direction?
How many rounds did it take for McCarthy? He lost before he took 15. He lost before he actually got it.
McCarthy always gained in votes every round.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. On the 7th or 8th vote, he lost a good many, but he came back up.
Where is there any potential, of the resolution to give Speaker Pro Tem McHenry power? That's still dead.
That's dead.
In conference?
Unless they're resurrected today.
Okay. And you haven't heard that yet?
Have not. Okay. I hope they don't.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Ralph Norman, Republican of South Carolina, and you heard him repeat what we've heard from other conservatives today after this third round of voting failed, which is keep going. That Kevin McCarthy won after 15 rounds, and they think that Jim Jordan, should keep pushing, and that he will pick up as the voting continues round after round. Let's get your reaction to that idea. Ken in Fort Smith, Arkansas, a Republican. What do you think? Should Jim Jordan keep pushing for more votes?
I think a certain number of rounds is reasonable, but I'm not sure if that's 5 or 15. You had a caller earlier that said Jordan should apologize and then people could respect him enough to vote for him. And I think that's ludicrous. Jordan has his head so far up the radical Republican MAGA that he cannot be extracted. I actually liked Jordan until he became a member of this misbegotten committee, and he can't make a finding, nor is he smart enough to terminate the committee. How is he going to lead the House? I think the House leads like a constitutional amendment or a rules change such that after a number of votes, each side picks 10 members that are removed from the representatives, and then they can go on. And those people can't be reelected, and you simply run with a smaller amount. Companies do that. I forget what the programs are called. They're not Six Sigma, but they eliminate the most radical, poorest performers, and then they go on. And I think maybe the House needs some such rule.
All right. Happening during the vote, this is an image captured by the Associated Press. Here is Representative Greg Steube, a Republican of Florida, who voted for Jim Jordan, holding a resolution on the House floor to remove Representative Patrick McHenry as temporary Speaker. It has several pages of signatures, he notes, removing Patrick McHenry as temporary Speaker. You heard other conservatives like Matt Gaetz and Bob Good praising the role that Patrick McHenry has been playing over the last 17 days, but they do not want to give him additional powers. Any resolution to do so, they would vote against it. Deneen in Golden Valley, Arizona, Republican.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Hi. I think that this whole thing has a good side and a bad side. The bad side is that Jordan did not get voted in. But the good side is that until he is, they can't spend any more money. And I'm really sick and tired of our open borders and all the money going out to Ukraine and other countries. So I think that it's a good win for Americans, because as long as they cannot spend more money, we're in a better place any day. Thank you, and God bless you.
Okay, Deneen in Golden Valley, Arizona. On a lighter note, here is an image that was put out by Lauren Boebert on X. A picture of her and Jim Jordan ahead of the vote. She's saying, I'll keep voting for Jim Jordan until he runs out of yellow ties and blue shirts. She says it's going to be a while. She decided to dress today in a similar fashion that Jim Jordan is fond of. Pamela in New Jersey, Democratic caller.
Hi, I am so happy you took my call. Thank you so much for listening. What I'd like to say is, I don't understand why Republicans think that Democrats in the House should run to salvage them. We have never been helped by the Republicans when we're short votes. Why do they think we should do it? Secondly, I don't understand why so many Republicans believe that money is a problem. In the United States of America, we're the richest country in the world. Why is it that they're so concerned with how much money is spent when it comes to something that's helpful and don't have a clue when it's not? They help the rich out. How about helping the middle class out?
All right, Pamela's thoughts in New Jersey. We're going to end the conversation there for now. Thank you all for watching and having a conversation with us today. Right now, we're going to bring you back to earlier in the day when the former Speaker Kevin McCarthy gave the nomination speech for Representative Jim Jordan.
House will come to order. Nominations are now in order. The chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. McCarthy.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to nominate Jim Jordan for the Speaker of the House. Now, I've listened to the speeches this week, and I can already tell you what my friends on the other side will say using their poll-tested phrases. But let me correct the record. Jim Jordan is an effective legislator. To legislate is about more than the name on the bill. It's about reaching compromise and working long hours behind the scenes to get the job done.
The House will come to order. Gentleman may resume.
When you are the chairman of a committee, you are responsible for dozens of bills passing the House and being signed into law. So let me tell you a few facts that don't come out in the polls. As the leader of the Judiciary Committee, Jim has passed more bills through the House in just 3 years than the entire Democrat leadership team that has their collective 28 years in Congress. Mr. Aguilar has a whopping one whole bill signed into law, a post office in San Bernardino. I guess that's good enough to be caucus chair. Jim Jordan, on the other hand, has a hand in drafting bills like the REINS Act to curb unaccountable bureaucrats. He helped negotiate and pass H.R. 2, the strongest border security bill this House has ever passed. And many of you know, because you were in the room, watching Jim find compromise, watching Jim listen to your positions, and finding a bill that can pass. And let's put this in reality. We've had large majorities, but we never could pass a border security bill. That takes leadership. Now, they're going to get upset by it. Why? Because every single Democrat voted against securing our border.